Hello folks and welcome to our game. As always, myself, Shane Stapleton and Michael Verney beside me. We're brought to you by orgaretro.com. Use the promo code OurGame and you get 15% off. Absolutely brilliant selection of jerseys, of tops, and there's a whole load of jumpers as well coming through as well, kind of retro type jerseys. So very well worth keeping an eye out for them. Michael, how are you? How was the weekend?
All good, Shane. Yeah, sure. It was good to have the football back, and it was good that it probably surpassed the billing that it had. Like, I don't know about you, but I just thought Saturday night was one of the best evenings of football in a hell of a long time. And obviously I was down at the World Cup final yesterday, and we did in Quirke game yesterday as well. So plenty of hurling to keep people going before next weekend too.
Yeah, I suppose just even to go over some of the results for the weekend. Well, first off, actually, MEAB 12 says Wexford far too fit for this time of the year. Now, we'll get into the game in a little while because, as you said, you were there for the clash with Galway. Is there such a thing as being too fit for this time of the year?
I don't know. When a new manager comes in, you kind of have to hit the ground running straight away. There's probably a bit of a grace period when they do come in, but you still want to kind of lay down a bit of a marker. I thought physically they looked very impressive yesterday. And even just enthusiasm-wise, they were the ones that were trying to get in the front foot the whole time. They were the ones that had bodies in around rucks the whole time. Shane, I don't know, we've probably said it before, but to see Lee Chin in the flesh is something else. He's huge, and he's able to move with the grace of someone who's probably maybe 2 stone lighter than him, but he's so powerful, so athletic, and so hard to stop once he gets going. Like, it was funny that coming on that question, like we're talking to Keith Rossiter after, and we just said that Jack O'Connor is going fierce well. Like, he'll surely be trying to nail down a spot or whatever. And he said, yeah, he's going well. We expect him to be going well. He said, I know he's going well at this time of the year, but there's more levels in him, as he feels there are more levels in a hell of a lot of lads. So they've hit the ground running definitely physically. And I know Lee Chin said after as well that mostly what they've been working on is running. But I'd say it was in a positive type of way, as in lads running off the shoulder the whole time. I'd say they're not just doing shuttle sprints or tempo runs, something like that. It's all fairly productive and going to be around their game plan. But they were impressive yesterday. They were good against Kilkenny the week before, but I was very impressed with what I saw in the flesh yesterday, with the caveat, obviously, that it's Walsh Cup, and it could be completely different in 6 days' time.
Oh, for sure. Like, I watched Tipperary against Limerick, and Tipperary put up a big score, but you have to realise that they weren't against anything close to the strongest version of Limerick. But still, you can read into some things. You can look at a player and think, God, this lad's moving well this year, or whatever it might be. Adrian McGrath says Wexford need wins early to get things going. It's unfair to criticise being ahead of other teams. So I'd agree with that. Like, when Davy Fitz went in that first year with Wexford, I think they had a good Walsh Cup campaign. They had that victory over Kilkenny. So all those things can just set the sort of early tone that whether the players or the supporters believe it or not, I'd say the manager does want it, because he feels like, okay, what I'm working on straight away, lads, you can see that this is working. We've got something here. And then support is probably more inclined to row in behind you.
Yeah, but if they have a bank done as well, Shane, it doesn't mean that you keep the foot to the floor the whole way through. I'm sure it's planned where that they'll have a couple of taper weeks when they get a chance to as well. But I think when a new manager comes in like that, maybe Wexford nearly had their worst season ever last year. Now they saved their bacon, but they're trying to kind of turn things around. So you kind of do need to maybe lay down a marker straight away. So yeah, no, I was impressed with what I saw yesterday, in fairness, albeit against like a Galway team that might have 4 championship starters, maybe 5 at most. But Wexford had a lot of new faces in as well. But they had a spine of experience, and really, it was Jack O'Connor and Lee Chin, particularly under their own puck out, they were massive outlets to have.
Yeah, we'll come back to that in more detail in a little while. Just some of the tables in the football. This is at GA League tables. So I'll just go through the results. Dublin, they lost by a point at home to Monaghan at Croke Park. At home? Are they at home? Yeah, they're at home. 114-3-9, last minute winner there. That was very exciting. Kerry lost by a point at home to Derry. Tyrone, they beat Roscommon despite being down to 14 men. And Galway, they were beaten comprehensively enough by Mayo, 10 points to 2-12. Just Donegal are top of Division 2. They had a nice win over Cork Cavan, just behind them. Armagh got the other win in that group. Antrim, Down, Westmeath and Clare, they all got victories in Division 3. And in Division 4, Leitrim won by 15 points against Waterford. Wexford, Carlow and Laois, they all had victories as well. So, the league is just so good in football. It's just a shame. Like you watch that Donegal against Cork game yesterday, and you're just looking at the wind, and you feel sorry for the cameraman because it's getting spattered with rain.
Yeah.
You know, how do you get over that? The rain is coming in sideways. Somehow the rain is going up the way. Just difficult conditions, and you just love to be seeing all these games further in the year when the conditions are that bit better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it's hard to, like, realistically, when are All Ireland's won or when are championships won, generally on a completely different type of sod in a completely different weather. Obviously you throw in the odd kind of monsoon kind of day during the summer, but they usually are completely different conditions. The common theme there, Shane, as well, and it's mad. Like you've 9 Ulster counties, not one of them in Division 4. I think 8 of them won over the weekend, and Fermanagh drew at Meath, which probably wouldn't have been predicted before. And I suppose when you look at the Meath team and see how young it is and inexperienced it is, they probably did well to get a draw. They were down 1-9 to 9. They got the next 3, got into 1-9 to 1-12, and then there was like 10 minutes played, and no one was able to score. So it was scoreless in the last 10 minutes of a game, which is pretty weird usually, because usually a team comes with a bit of a burst or something happens at the end. But just chatting to someone that was at the game, and there was 10 scoreless minutes there. But it just probably shows you maybe how competitive Ulster is at the minute. Like most teams could beat each other on a given day, maybe outside of Derry at the minute. And I'm sure even like Fermanagh are up in 2 now as well. Antrim had a good year last year. We're only beating a couple of points by Meath in the semi-final at Talton as well. So they're all pretty competitive at this moment.
Do you know what? Before we jump into some of the hurling in particular, I'd be keen to ask you about the situation with the 3 Glen lads starting for Derry down in Kerry. And of course, Conor Glass, he proposed and, did that down at Adair Manor, I think. So great for him and all that kind of stuff. And it was a nice photo opportunity and everything. But irrespective of whether the players wanted to play and stake their claim and all that kind of stuff, do you not feel that they nearly needed to be saved from themselves here by the management? And the management, of course, want to win the game, but surely tell them, look, lads, you came back too quickly last year. You came back very quickly last year. It's not like your commitment is up for question. And just save them from themselves a little bit.
Yeah, Glass picked up a soft tissue injury last year, didn't he? Not long after that. I thought it was mad, being honest with you. Now,
and when you say mad, do you mean bad?
Yeah, no, I didn't think it was. I didn't think it was the right thing to do. Being honest with you, like they were back in. Kieran McFaul said they were back in training Wednesday night. This bugs me in the sense of I just think when you win something, and even when you lose something, you're after getting to a national final or even a county final, that you should be allowed to enjoy your success with no restrictions. Or if you lose, you should be able to spend a few days with lads with no restrictions as well, and just be able to enjoy yourself and whatever. I just wonder, like, okay, short term, it worked. They got a win over Kerry, started their season in Division 1 in really, really good fashion. What's the longer to mid-term? Like, is there a hunger issue? Is there a fatigue issue in 2 or 3 months' time? Maybe there isn't at this moment in time. And I remember saying last year, like, I thought David Clifford came back way too soon last year. And he wasn't at his best, I thought then. Well, maybe he wasn't at his best in the biggest game of the year. Whether that had any, part in it, I'm not sure. But I think you need to be kind of cute. And even Jack O'Connor, after the 2 Cliffords having a less busy winter, has now given them the first few games of the league off. So maybe he thinks that they weren't hopping when they needed to be hopping. I do think sometimes, I think that you said it right there, I do think a manager needs to save a player from himself at times. Because most of the time a player will put his hand up and want to play. And that's just the nature of it. And you're like, will he think less of me if I don't play? I think if the manager just nips it in the bud and says, no, lads, you won All-Ireland final last Sunday. This is 6 days later. It's not right. Throw on your Derry gear and come with us and travel with us and be there for moral support or whatever. But listen, we won't exactly know exactly what happened. And maybe everyone thinks they're vindicated now by the fact that they've won. I'm not so sure in the medium to long term whether it was the right thing to do. I don't think it was the right thing to do, being honest with you, at all.
Nor do I. And nearly should this be legislated for. Obviously, if the All-Ireland Club finals go to before Christmas, then this shouldn't be an issue anymore. But realistically, should a player be precluded from playing in any fixture for his county for at least 3 weeks or 2 weeks, certainly, after finishing their club season? maybe something like that would help. And it's only ever going to be the edge cases like this, for example. So it's not like we have to worry about it all that often.
It's funny, you like I've probably been batting for it more than you with the under-20s to play a senior. And in fairness to you, you've always said, but you can't legislate for certain lads and what certain managers will do or whatever. And when it's open-ended like this, and like if Derry were playing on the Monday, technically the boys could have played. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I wouldn't have been a fan of it.
But yeah, it just shows we can't look to the managers and expect them to do what us, I mean, maybe it was the right thing to do, but like as far as we're concerned, it wasn't the right thing to do. And we can't trust that managers across the board will all say, yeah, by right, I shouldn't play these lads at all. Because I can't see why you would play them. Other than, yeah, the lads are meant to play. Fair enough. But they just need to be protected from themselves, I would have thought.
Yeah, I would have said it's a short-term thing. Saying that, like Aaron Kernan came out and said that he played a big game with Armagh 4 or 5 days, I think, after an All-Ireland final as well, and he was mad to play and wanted to play. Yeah, listen, it's kind of it's a funny one. I was very surprised now, to be honest with you, that the three of them potentially maybe that they could tug out and offer something off the bench, but to actually go and start a game, like God only knows what would have been flown through their body, and also, you know what I mean? Like it's a fair play to them to even get to the levels that they did six days later. Should they have been put in that position, or should they have put themselves in that position? I don't think so.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to go through a few comments and then we'll come back to another topic that we want to touch on. Verney, you better gatekeep this. If you allowed a nutter any more than 3 or 4 minutes on a challenge match against Limerick C, you will have to be replaced. That's Adrian McGrath talking about the Tip Limerick game. Ian Donovan shoots back at Adrian McGrath, says, did Limerick not pick that C team? Can we not beat what's in front of us? P-Well74 having a pop at Tipperary. The Tip cornerbacks were in trouble defensively yesterday. English and O'Dowlig won a lot of ball and scored a bit defensively, but offensively they did their job. P.S. was the Slattery lad from last year's 20s playing for Tip. He was cornerback. Only experimental team, says Ian Donovan. I don't see anyone getting carried away. And P-Well74 says they will have to be able to defend as well. That other topic that I wanted to come back to, the suggestions that there might be a VAR in GAA. John Fogarty did a piece about it, saying that it's going to be put back by at least 18 months. Just a taster from the article. The GAA is considering, I'm looking at the wrong article there. But anyway, the thoughts anyway of a VAR coming in. Like, I think it's disastrous for soccer in so many situations. I said this before, like the offsides should be somewhat automated. And, I'm not saying that that's particularly easy to do, but the idea of micro-analysing every decision. And I know there was like the goal line situation there with O'Loughlin Gales and St. Thomas's. But I just think it's going to lead to so many subjective situations, so many rows. And I think we have it pretty good as things are. There are going to be mistakes. But like you look at soccer at the moment, every time a player scores a goal, he's looking at the referee and looking at the sideline before he explodes into joy. And there's nothing like the explosion around a stadium as soon as a ball hits the back of the net. And the thought now that we might constantly be looking over our shoulders, that's just going to kill that. I don't know, it's just going to take something away from it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And like, if you look at like how long does a soccer match go on now, just with all these decisions? Sometimes it go on, 105, 110 minutes. What's the greatest thing about hurling? The speed of it and just how quickly things can happen. If you're going somewhere for a decision and the nature of it is, Shane, you'll be going there, you'll end up going there for every decision. And just decisions that you shouldn't even be looking at. And that's probably what will happen. I'd probably take the odd mistake here or there and trust that the referee will make the right call, and his umpires and his sideline officials, that they will make the right call, 95% of the time. I think it'd be a disaster if we ended up going. At the end of the day, why would we copy something from another sport that is in a roundabout way ruining that sport? That doesn't make any sense to me. Kick it down the line 18 months, kick it down the line 18 years, more like. I wouldn't even be entertaining that conversation for a hell of a long time.
Yeah, folks, get your comments in. Let us know if you agree with that, or if you would like it brought in, and if you think it's more hassle than it's worth, whatever your thoughts are. Also, an agreement has been reached at GAA board level to submit a motion to Congress so that a player ordered off in normal time may not be replaced, and that yellow cards shall carry over into extra time. So this is a report on the RT website. The practice of players having a clean slate once a drawn game has gone into extra innings will be discontinued if the motion passes. Previously, a team reduced to less than the full complement of 15 players during normal time could replace the dismissed player for the extra periods. The yellow-carded player has also been able to have the handicap removed for extra time. Any thoughts on that?
I'm probably going to contradict myself here, but if it's a really controversial incident and it's borderline right, borderline wrong, and a player's off for 15 minutes and it's like, oh, was that a good call or was it a bad call?
But you can't be half pregnant. You're either pregnant or not.
That's true, as I well know. Listen, the only thing is, at least, they didn't have it so the same person could come back on. That would be totally wrong, obviously. But it's the same game, so I could see why the same rules should continue on and carry on into extra time.
Okay, so John Bowl says, don't know about you, but I'd swear some refs would throw an eye at the replays on the big screens in the likes of Quirke and Thurles and then produce a card. Could be very wrong also. Without question, at times they look up at the screen just to see if they... And do you blame them? Absolutely not. Everyone else in the stadium is looking, so why shouldn't they?
Yeah, it's funny. Stephen Deason had a picture up the other day of the new screen down in Thurles, and I'm just wondering if they're going to not show any game-defining decisions and moments on that big screen like they do in Croke Park. I can't get my head around this. So in an era where we want people, as many people as possible, to go to games, you go to Croke Park and say we're working journalists there, or you're after paying your hard-earned to go in, and a real incident that you want to see that you maybe missed in normal time or you want to get another look at is coming up on the big screen, and then all of a sudden it's not. Like, how? Like, it's such a terrible viewer experience or spectator experience. What other sport would you see it where, like, they would not show...
Soccer.
Yeah, but that's the only thing I'd say about that. And some instance that I saw on Twitter and various people going off the field, bloodied supporters and stuff like that. We don't have that in the GA. There's not going to be, a random act of hooliganism in Croke Park.
We do have rows in the stands. We do have rows. I'm not saying it's all that common, but we do have some boxing matches on the hill, and I'm not saying just Dublin. We do.
I'd say we would have the odd skirmish on the hill, all right, where ironically they can't see the big screen, can they, from there? So it's nothing to do with the big screen.
I know plenty of them can. Like, it's not like it's obscured from all of them.
Okay, it's obscured from the vast amount, but those sort of instances are relatively limited in the GA. Like, what do we think is going to happen by showing something?
It's not an incident, basically, I'd imagine.
Yeah,
that was the Tyrone referee in 2010 after the Louth Meath Leinster final, when supporters did come on and jostle him and more.
Yeah, I do think that's the exception to the rule, though. I think if you're paying, particularly, I see they're going to add another tenner, are they, potentially, to All Ireland final tickets, which is absolute madness. Like, the rate of inflation for All Ireland tickets has gone through the roof. Like, imagine paying that sort of money. There's two debates here. There's the fact that every ticket costs the same amount of money in Croke Park, which is mad, really, because you could have a pretty bad ticket down low at the back of the Davin where your view is obscured by nets, and you could have a prime view in the middle of the Hogan or the Cusick. So it's mad that you're paying the same price. But as well as that, if you're shelling out big money for a ticket and you can't see an incident that you may have missed in normal time, that doesn't make sense to me.
Okay, so let's go back to that game that you were at yesterday. Wexford beating Galway in the Walsh Cup final at Netwatch Cullen Park, 121 to 16 points. So Keith Rossiter is on the board in terms of he has a bit of silverware now. Yes, it won't matter at the end of the season if they have a bit of a disaster. Obviously, he'll be hoping that won't be the case. Talk to me about the match and, what were the main talking points from it?
Yeah, well, just on the silverware, Keith Rossiter was actually quite happy to have silverware because he just said that they've been beaten in the last two Leinster under-20 finals when he was manager. So it might seem insignificant, but it's nice to kind of get one on the board. And even just seeing the talent that was standing outside the dressing room after not togged, like Conor McDonald, Liam McGovern, Dee O'Keefe, Matt O'Hanlon, Joe O'Connor, and many, many more lads that weren't involved. So while Galway were playing a second team, Wexford had a fairly experimental team, bar 5 or 6-2. Wexford hit the ground running straight away from the start. Were really, really lively. Corey Byrne-Dunbar, very, very good. Played the deep lying kind of role at times as well. But they tried to carry the ball where possible. Anytime anyone picked up a ball, there was always someone darting off them at very ferocious speeds, to be honest with you. They were delivering the ball into the forwards at, I'd say the right end of the field. It was in around 65 midfield, whereas Galway were striking the ball in from their own 65. It wasn't carrying. It was kind of a hanging type of a ball. Wexford, I thought Wexford used the ball very, very good. A lot of names, like newish kind of names. I mentioned Chin and O'Connor. Connor Foley, very good at full back. Damien Reck was centre back. He's obviously not a new name, but he was very, very solid. Conor Hearn midfield, good. Corey Byrne Dunbar, good. Keane Byrne, Richie Lawler, a good few kind of new names, and they need new faces to step up, to be honest with you. And obviously Rosser knows these boys inside out from the 20s. I was just impressed with, like, it's not going to click every day, particularly at this time of the year, but just generally they were playing heads up hurling, and when lads tried to pop balls to lads on the shoulder, generally kind of worked and came off, and they were very, very physical in the tackle. Like Galway had a forward line, just off the top of my head, like 3 of their 6 forwards were Greg Thomas, John Cooney and Kevin Cooney, like 3 absolute monsters, like 6'3", 6'4", and generally outside of a couple of high balls in the first half, they dealt pretty well with them. And although Wexford were, the smaller team physically, they were the more physically imposing team. They were 11-8 up at half time, kind of looked like they were going to get a right good game in the second half, and the opposite happened. Wexford put the afterburners on, went 7 up. I think it was 16-9. Always kind of held them at Arms Bay. Seamus Casey came in there, got a good goal in the 62nd minute. Again, it was a kind of a 30-70 ball to the forward, and he just kind of won it. And Aidan Murphy probably will not be happy with the goal going in. He got kind of half block on it, and then it kind of rolled over the line. But from a Wexford point of view, impressive. From a Galway point of view, compared to what I saw the week before against Dublin, it was kind of poles apart, really. Shot selection was poor. The ball in was generally from the wrong areas. But just from a Wexford point of view, yeah, lots of enthusiasm, lots of energy, and the start of maybe this type of style that we're going to see. And it was generally, Shane, orthodox a lot of the time. There was no obvious sweepers. They weren't pulling a huge amount of men behind the ball, but the midfielders and two half forwards were definitely dropping back fairly deep, and then they were trying to get ball in over the Galway half back line. But it was impressive from Wexford now, I have to say.
Yeah, because only last year you were talking about Wexford having nothing coming, weren't you?
Yeah.
I argued against you at the time, but of course you wouldn't be talked to.
Well, Jesus, I'll tell you something. If you're basing yourself being right on them winning the Walsh Cup in 2024,
you're singing their praises there.
Oh, well, I'm not going to slate them. You asked me for a report on the game. I give an unbiased report on the game. No, it hasn't really changed because they played a second string Galway team. Like, I'd be interested to see how they go through the league. And at the end of the day, their acid test is, can they get at least third in Leinster? And can they keep their best men on the field when they need them? They need the blood lads now. And I saw Keane Byrne in that Leinster 20 final last year. He hit 4 from play. Got 2 yesterday. A couple of lovely scores. There's a couple of names there that I'd say we'll see a lot of league time. Charlie McGuckin was wing back again as well. He wasn't as impressive as you may have hoped, but he played Fitzgibbon, I think, Thursday night, didn't he? He played nearly full Fitzgibbon game, so he's hardly going to have a massive impact on the game, but he was solid as well. Yeah, no, Wexford did exactly what any Wexford supporter would have wanted from this time of the year, to be honest.
Yeah, Cracky Dash says it doesn't take much for Shane to declare that the team.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Crack. In fairness, they're back after beating their second string or third string Limerick team in an exhibition game.
Shane Power says, easy forfeit idea for your fantasy hurling league competition. One of you'll have to wear one of those big Wexford hats to either a tip championship game or an off-league championship game in the summer. That wouldn't bother me though, because it's not like Wexford are a poisonous rival of Tipperary.
Well, if you were to wear one of those big kind of Kilkenny sombreros to a Kilkenny game, now that might be different.
I wouldn't be buzzing with that now.
Yeah, or if I had to wear a Tipperary one to a Tipperary championship game now. Or even worse, if you had to wear it in the press box and make an absolute fool of yourself.
Well, Scully says it was refreshing to watch FA Cup matches without VAR over the weekend, but when you see Maidstone score a goal after Ipswich player loses the ball after being fouled, you think that VAR would have disallowed the goal. Plus, we see the mess of VAR in Belgium at the minute with a game being replayed over a VAR mistake. Yeah, that's the trouble. I mean, I thought that Maidstone game against Ipswich was brilliant. Maidstone, I'm not even sure what division they're in. They're not in the Football League, but they had 2 shots, scored 2 goals, Ipswich had 38 shots, scored 1 goal. I was watching it kind of in disbelief. It was really
Sure,
exciting.
what do you want? We're talking about scoring returns the last day. 100% scoring return doesn't get much better than that. You'll win every game you play if you've won nearly if you're 100% scoring return.
Yeah, both Paul Scully and Cuckoo are saying Maidstone are in the 6th tier. So we like for Galway now, and we're going to do a little segment in a moment talking about some of the young players coming for each county this year at the top level. Was there anyone that impressed you for Galway? It doesn't have to be a young player, but like who would have stood out for you?
Yeah, no, I'd always be looking at the inside defenders just as an inside defender, and like I thought Jack Grealish was very good in a team that was well beaten. To be honest with you, very very solid. He's brilliant in around the ruck as well. Generally comes out and he always gives the right ball. Other guys, Tom Monaghan scored 3 and was kind of taking the fight to Wexford nearly by himself. Kevin Cooney was their best player by a mile, but he went off injured with a hamstring, and Henry said after it was fairly bad. So he's in that situation now where he mightn't see any league action till potentially around 4 or 5. And you might, like with a hamstring 6-week job, you won't see any league action. So he's gone from, playing really, really well yesterday and an all-star nominee last year to probably been under a bit of pressure kind of coming into the championship now, or on the back foot somewhat. But no, he's really good. And he was really good in the air. Actually, he was able to come in and behind a couple of Wexford defenders at different times. As for other lads that stood up, she's not really. Been honest with you, I don't know if that Ronan Glennon experiment at wing back will stick. Keenan Fatty came on centre back at half time. I don't know if that experiment will stick either. Been honest with you, when Dottie Burke comes back, and even wing back when Fintan Burke comes in over the next couple of weeks as well. So no, outside of Tom Monaghan and Kevin Cooley and Jack Grealish, there weren't too many bright spots now.
Yeah, okay. Get your comments in. Let us know who impressed you over the weekend. If you have any other thoughts on the games we're going to talk about. Delighted to see a good attendance at the Dillon Quirke game as well. So I'm sure there's plenty of money raised there. It finished up, for what it's worth, Tipperary 327, Limerick 120. Now, there was far more frontline players with Tipperary than there were with Limerick.
For what it's worth, very little.
Crack of the Ash says, did any Limerick starters play in the Dillon Quirke? Just Hegarty and one more maybe. Hegarty came on. Colin Coughlin started. Adam English maybe a starter as the year goes on. He played. He scored himself 4 points. Out of that, guys who were probably I'd say the lads that might be a little bit closer. People are talking a lot about Fergal O'Connor, who looks a really good prospect. Maybe Micheál Houlihan can push for a starting spot this year. Conor Boylan won't be too far away. Donegal O'Donnell, he was very good. He scored 1-3. Patrick O'Donovan, it's interesting with Patrick O'Donovan. He came on for UL the other night, but he's one of these players that you hear talk of him being a common player for Limerick. But that's not uncommon either. Donegal O'Donnell isn't starting with UL either. It's kind of mad when you think about the quality of some of the likes of UL, that they have players that are there that are on the radar with their county panel, but they can't get near it with their college. It's kind of mad.
Yeah, I suppose the fact that they're on the radar with the best county team is, you know what I mean? Yeah, I think the fact that Adam English and O'Donnell went so well yesterday in a second or third string Limerick team that weren't being supplied like Aaron Gallan or Peter Casey or Seamus Flanagan would be supplied was probably quite impressive from their point of view. So they've definitely put their hands up a bit further as well. But just on that UL point, it just shows you just how strong they are in this year's Fitzgibbon. Going for the hat-trick, obviously. SETU, Waterford IT nearly beat them in the semi-final last year, and then they won the final well. It's going to take a real kind of dogfight on a miserable kind of evening, I'd say, for them to be maybe taken down this year. Interesting as well, Henry just made the point, and kind of you only kind of think about it, you only think about it from one perspective until you hear somebody else's perspective. But he was just bemoaning the fact that there was Fitzgibbon Cup matches been played on a Monday and a Thursday. He said they couldn't be worse for a county manager. So they can't play the game at the weekend, and then they play the game on Monday, and then they can't train on Tuesday, and they can't be seen again until Friday. And with the Thursday, they play a match on a Thursday, they can't train on Friday, and chances are they generally can't play at the weekend as well. So he was just calling for games to be played on a Tuesday and Wednesday. And he actually suggested that the group stages of the Fitzgibbon and Sigersons are played before Christmas, which would probably eliminate a lot of guys' involvement after Christmas and just mean that you have 8, 4 and 2, and it just means that lads won't be dragged every which way in that what is the worst month of the calendar by a mile. I'd say mid-January to mid-February is a disaster for some amount of lads.
Then, of course, the other issue is if you have a team who's still in the All-Ireland club run, and it could be at senior, intermediate or junior, then they're precluded from playing with their college. So no matter what happens, you're going to have issues. And I think of all teams that should suffer, it's the inter-county team, because they get them for most of the year. Just leave them off. Leave them off and let them play with their college.
The problem there is that Henry has 17 lads, obviously, and this is their only time to stake.
But sure, he doesn't have to pick every lad that's in college.
He doesn't. Well, he doesn't have to, but they're obviously some of the vast, like half of his panel must be some of the best talent that's in the county, and they must be in college. It's very tricky if you're trying to stake a claim, and think of it from a player's point of view. If you're not Conor Glass, say you're a lad that's trying to make his way on a panel, you will keep putting your hand up, won't you? And you'll be like, oh yeah, I'll play, because you want a chance to kind of stake your claim, and then you have a hamstring injury, and then you're out. But it's a tough time. It's a tough time for players, particularly at this time of the year. And they're the number one in all this, really. Forget about pre-season competitions or early rounds at league or anything like that. Most important thing is that players are kind of looked after properly, and that they're not the ones that fall into trouble or have player welfare issues or anything like that.
Which is why the decision needs to be taken out of managers' hands. Just totally taken out of their hands. If you're in college competition, you can't play until your team is out, and that's it. And like, for a county manager, you're probably going to be watching the college games anyway, so just monitor how the guy went and take it from there.
Yeah, and you can train away with your county panel, within reason. But it's the games really where they're going to get hurt, where they have trained a couple of days previous or played a third level game and then carry that into the game, and then all of a sudden you're on the back foot for 6 or 8 weeks, 6 or 8 weeks, I should say, with a soft tissue injury,
Okay, well, 56 players saw game time in Tipperary against Limerick, so it's kind of difficult to really piece together who made an impact, certainly from the bench, because it was so changed towards the latter stages. But some of the players who did score, and John McGrath scored 2-9 for Tipperary, 1-6 of that was from place balls. He was quite good, just moving from centre forward and getting on a lot of ball. He was quite good. Andrew Ormond scored 1-2, and he was good, and a lot didn't go right for him either, so he had a lot of chances that he probably put wide or whatever, but I still thought he was very, very good. And he's sort of a player that when we're talking about young players coming this year, he might be worth a mention. Jack Ryan, so son of Declan Ryan, who of course, won a couple of All-Irelands, 3 All-Irelands for Tipperary as a forward. He was very good. So he's starting to, probably the next year or two, he'll probably be really staking a claim for a position. Huge man, probably a case of growing into himself. I'd say he must be around 23 or, give or take that age at this stage. So he's probably just trying to fully fill out because he's so enormous. He must be 6'4". Really liked how he played here. Again, it's probably Limerick's C team because there's not too many lads that you'd even see on the bench that were playing in this game. And Tipperary were relatively dominant in this match, as you'd expect. We're not going to read massively into it, but yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what else there is to say about it. Get your comments in and let us know.
We're not going to read massively into it, but Tipper back.
Reluctantly, I'll accept that Tipper back. But actually, I suppose the likes of Willie Connors, he made a comeback. First time we'd seen him in a Tip jersey for a while. Billy Seymour actually made an appearance as well. And I think Seymour played in one of the games in the Munster Hurling League as well, so he has been around. Ronan Maher played fullback. Michael Breen played wing back. Robert Byrne, after getting sent off against Waterford, he was back in at centre back. Owen Connolly, who played midfield for Setu Midwest or Midlands or whatever it is, he played midfield again. So I'm just wondering, are Tipperary, a bit like Limerick and maybe Galway, going for land of the giants? You could say Kilkenny are the same as well. So I'd say we're going to see a lot of physical games this year. You might want to talk about Liam Cahill's comments afterwards.
Yeah, no, I just thought...
I think we lost you there for a second, did we, Michael?
Can you hear me, Shane?
I can hear you again. We might kick you out there for a second. Yeah, he'll come back in a second. I'll read out those comments from Liam Cahill. And he said, I know we were disappointed with how our championship petered out last year in the end, but we had a lot of hard work to do last year regarding changing our game style. a little bit. There's a lot of movement now, trying to break the lines, because the game of hurling is always evolving. Those players weren't fully accustomed to that type of play, so it took a while and a lot of work. Mikey Beavens is working extremely hard on the field with those fellas to change up our game, to bring that little bit of variety required to beat the teams that have it a little bit more perfected than us. And look, that's probably something that I've been saying for the last number of years with regard to Tipperary, that they do need to have that variety to play instead of putting every ball to the clouds, and trying to introduce players with a bit of pace and energy into the team as well. That's been the challenge too. So given the amount of players that are back from injury this year as well, it's all looking relatively good for Tipperary at the moment. Now, by that, I'm not saying Tip are back and winning All Ireland this year, but I'm just saying in terms of like steps in the right direction, that it looked pretty good. And he also talked about a condensed season. Cahill did. He goes, players are getting hammered left, right, and centre. Oh yeah, it's a pity that it's such confidence now that our elite players are getting hammered left, right, and centre. Such confidence, that might be a typo. You can just come out of a club campaign and start straight back into the National League campaign. The Munster Championship is just 3 weeks later if you're lucky enough to get to a league semi-final or final. Yeah, Michael, I was just talking about him referring to the playing style and changing around the playing style. That's probably no surprise, and Tipperary wouldn't be the only county trying to adjust how they're playing.
No, definitely not. Like the way Cahill and the Mickey Beavens teams set up are very high octane. Trying to play, always really going through the lines where possible. Whereas, like, I know the way Tipperary played in 2022 definitely looked like a team that weren't really sure how to play that way. Remember that horrible game against Kilkenny in Thurles where they tried to play that way? League game, it was like poison for the eyes. Yeah, it was horrible to look at.
It's the worst Kilkenny Tipperary game I can think of in living memory.
Yeah, by a mile. You had two teams trying to do two things that looked alien to. Yeah, it was a horrible game. So it obviously takes a bit of time. I just think a lot of what Tipperary were doing last year were obviously, as I said, with cattle teams, there's a lot of energy needed. There was by all anecdotal evidence, there was a huge effort put into pre-season and trying to get up to a level that you'd say that they weren't at in 2022, and so there's bound to be little snags and different things that break down at different stages. But having been coached by Cahill, Bevins, etc. now for going into a second year, you'd imagine the style would be a bit more seamless now.
Yeah, right. And so we'll be revisiting that subject as we go along, of course. Quirke up round 3, Kildare beat Meath by 3 points, 122 to 119. Now we want to talk about the young guns that are coming, or the new stars, we'll say. They don't necessarily all need to be 19 or 20 years of age. Maybe this will be the first year that they really put their hands up and make an impact for their county. So let us know there in the comments, who do you think is going to be the star man this year for whatever given county? We're probably going to mostly stick to the Liam McCarthy teams for 2024. But if you want to add in somebody who's beyond the Liam McCarthy, please let us know. And that could be in either code. We're just going to do hurling today. Antrim, I'm assuming that Joey McLaughlin, the Cushendall corner forward, he just looks like a real live wire, real quality hurler. And when they're changing over their panel a lot, there's a good chance that he'll get serious game time this year. So Joey McLaughlin would be the one that stands out for me with Antrim straight away. And I know you like him too.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for the likes of Joey and a few other lads as well, and maybe some names that we don't know particularly well yet, because there's 5 players have opted out. Neil McManus is retired and Donal Nugent's not involved either. So there's a lot of boys going to get chances, maybe lads that have been playing maybe in the shadows the last couple of years, and I would expect McLaughlin to stake a bit of a claim. And just looking from a Carlow point of view then, he was a very young player and lads mightn't have known much about him maybe before the McDonagh final, but Paddy Boland was exceptional in the McDonagh final. It was only awfully to move over their best defender in Ben Keneally to try and quench his threat. And in fairness, he did a good job on it. But Paddy Boland had nearly won 4, I think, by that stage. And he's a player that's only going to get better. Like we always talk about Marty Kavanagh and Chris Nolan and even John Mike Nolan are in around the Carlow attack, or at least from 8 up. Having another player, particularly going into the Leinster Championship this year, a player like Boland, who will surely only get better from last year, is going to be a big boost to them. So, yeah, Paddy Boland, is, from a Carlow point of view, is definitely a player to be keeping a close eye on this year.
Yeah, I was onto some of my moles around Carlow hurling, just some experts on the ground. And Kieran Whelan is somebody that, has been good with Mary Ide the last couple of years. Had a few injuries, but looked good against Wexford, and he could be a big addition this year. He's sort of a floating role, Tony Kelly-esque type role. Fiach O'Toole is another one that's been with the 20s. We actually had him with UCD a couple of years ago. He could be somebody to make a bit of an impact. Donna Murphy of Mount Leinster Rangers, he's been good with St. Kieran's College. Niall Bulger then with Bagenalstown Maynooth, key player in the under-20 team as well. So there's a number of players there with Carlow that could have an impact this year. Now, as I said, we're going to keep going through the counties. Let us know who we're missing out on. Another one worth talking about then, another county we're talking about, Clare. Dylan McMahon, we like him as a centre-back. He was very good with Clonlara.
Yeah, he played against Cork in the Munster League as well. Like, he's probably not like 18 or 19 or anything like that, but he's only kind of getting a go maybe at senior county level now. So yeah, always impressed with him with Clonlara, and even against Cork the last day. I thought at times in a team that was under pressure at different stages, I thought he was pretty solid. Now he's trying to break into a half back line that consists of Dermot Ryan, John Conlon, and probably David McInerney. So it's not going to be simple to break in. But we saw obviously a couple of years ago when Conlon was missing for that All-Ireland semi-final how badly missed he was. So like, even it could see, the thing with these guys is now it might just be plugging a hole even for 10 minutes in a game, in a big game, but it's just having a lad that's able to come in and fill one of those big spots and basically not weaken your hand at all. And I think the more game time he gets, the stronger influence he can have potentially in maybe not a starter this year, but in time potentially.
Yeah, the comments keep coming in. Will Galway launch young Nyland? In 10 years ago, he'd have been thrown in. I'm not sure, is he eligible just yet?
No, he's not eligible. He's only just out of minor, so he can't play senior inter-county until next year. He couldn't even play. This will be his first year even playing senior with Turlock Moore. Will it? Yeah, he'd be able to play club senior with Turlock Moore. Clarenbridge, sorry, yeah.
Unless he transfers, that won't go down well.
No, definitely not. But he would be seen as a massive player for Clarenbridge, despite his age this year. Like, some of the things he's done at underage level. I remember watching him even in a club under 20 game last year. He just puts up massive scores. Be very interesting to see in a couple of years who hits frees for Clarenbridge between him and his brother, and even potentially a county level in a couple of years who will be hitting frees between the two of them.
Yeah, because Evan he started the season well. Pat Mulhall says, RE player availability. There's way more on the NFL than in hurling. Qualification for Sam Maguire is on the line. Jeopardy. James West says, Luke Crowley, Kerry, 19 years of age, son of Johnny Crowley, probably 1 year with the hurling team before he moves to the football panel. He's also part of the Kerry under-20s as well. Cork then. There's a lot of players. Every year it feels like you could list out a whole host of players with Cork because they're doing so well at under-20 level in particular. But some of the players, you would have seen them against Clare recently, didn't you? And
yeah,
like Robbie Cotter, Brian Saunderson and the goals. Ben Cunningham, of course, is somebody we're really expecting to see in the league this year, and the under-20 captain from last year, Micheál Mullins.
There's definitely no shortage of guys anyway, is there? Like, you could pull out 6 or 7 ads here potentially that are going to make an impact. Saunderson in goals, I think, is a good keeper. I think he's going to be a live option for them. Maybe this year, but definitely next year anyway, or in the years going forward. Robbie Cotter hit 4 against Clare in that game. Small, kind of diminutive forward. Ben Cunningham's probably the opposite of that. He's probably about 6'2", big, kind of rangy player, good free taker as well. Is he the most realistic person potentially to take over from Patrick Horgan on the place balls in
Is
time
he only
for Cork?
6'2"? Only 6'2", but he looks about 6'4" or 6'5" to me.
Yeah, well, he came out of Páirc Uí Rinn the other day, and I didn't think he was 6'4" anyway. He looked around 6. I didn't. I wouldn't come off well in that one now. Go 1-on-1 with the great one. No, he's definitely 6 foot plus, probably anything between 6'2" and 6'4", but I thought he was about 6'2", but he was very good in that 20 final last year. He was very good in that whole campaign. He's someone that maybe could come in maybe around the half-forward line. Micheál Mullins probably maybe more in defence, probably around maybe half-back potentially as well, but there's no shortage of lads there. It's in one way it's a great thing to have. In another way, like how many of them will actually start this year? It's kind of hard to know really. It's Cunningham's first year senior, Saunderson's first year, Cotter's first year, Mullins' first year. I don't know.
Put my neck on the block. I'd say Ben Cunningham could start this year. Out of all of them, he'd be the one that I'd say, yeah, I'd give him a right good chance.
He's the most likely, I would say, yeah. And he offers them something a bit different. He's a good ball winner as well. Lots of pace, lots of power. And with Declan Dalton out for a while, I think with his metatarsal, he did that against Clare. There's going to be opportunities. But again, he's another guy that's playing Fitzgibbon as well, so he'll have to be kind of managed at this time too. A lot of those guys mightn't see too much league time or might be juggling at the minute, just with the fact that they're playing Fitzgibbon and trying to manage county as well.
Joe, as we're talking there, I'm starting to wonder who's the biggest machine on each county team, and you couldn't help but think of, like, with Kerry, for example, Fionn Mackesy. What an absolute animal of a man.
I was beside him at the Munster launch, Shane. Like, he's actually even bigger than you think. Like, he is a tank.
Who else comes? Let's just quickly run through the counties again. We're not even finished with the young guns, but let's think machines. Antrim, like, who'd be the biggest machine there? Oh, what's his name? Is it Conor Bohill?
Bohill,
he's a wing back.
He's
a serious machine. Let me just look him up and make sure that I have the right guy. I think that's him. I could be wrong, but there's definitely a wing back there, and I think he's monster. Dan Morrissey with Limerick. Is he more of a machine than Kyle Hayes? I'm giving it to Kyle Hayes here.
Who's more of a machine than Lee? Are either more of a machine than Lee Shin? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you think so?
No, sorry. I don't know.
I think he's the ultimate machine. I think he's nearly the ultimate machine. I think we ended up giving strongest that when we built the perfect hurler, Lee Chin ended up as the strongest, didn't he? I think Hayes went into another category. But Dan Morrissey as well. I was down at the All Ireland preview night a couple of years ago, and like, he looks like he could be playing rugby for Ireland. Like, he's just absolutely ripped. There too, there's I think, like, maybe you wouldn't class Gerard Hegarty as a machine, but when you, like, there's some amount of Limerick lads, you look across them and just think Hayes, Morrissey, Tom Morrissey is like he's a machine in a different type of a guise almost as well. Do you know what I mean? Flanagan's a wrecking ball.
Yeah, he is.
Have Tip any machine?
They do. Gerard O'Connor is an absolute monster.
Is he a machine though?
As in, will he stay running all day with that?
A physical machine.
I think so. You could say give it to Michael Breen, no problem at all. I don't think you're going to debate that one, are you? But I think Gerard O'Connor could become Tip's machine this year.
I don't think either of them are in the same category as some of the lads we've mentioned there now. You're telling me they're in the same category physically as Lee Chin, Dan Morrissey, Kyle Hayes? Don't think so.
You wait and see. you wait, the audacity of you. What about Cork? Any machines there? You're going to slap them down good and quick. He's gone playing rugby, Ben O'Connor.
Yeah, he probably would be the one, wouldn't he?
Yeah. They do have some very well filled out players, like Robbie O'Flynn. But again, it's levels here, it's tiers here. Like, he's in unbelievable shape, but I don't know if he's like Sean O'Donoghue. Again, absolute unit.
Arms.
Yeah, you're more talking about that physically imposing height to go with it as well.
Yeah, and the lad that can almost like go through you and just stay going and going and going. And I think some of the lads we've mentioned there would definitely be like that.
Yeah, Chris Crummy would probably be that for Dublin. I think he'll be back this year, so he'd probably be that. Galway, sure, take your pick. Grode McInerney is a good place to start.
Doughty Burke's not a bad one either.
Yeah. There's got to be somebody else. I have a match program here. Sure, some of the Coonies.
Fintan Burke wouldn't be a million miles off either.
Yeah. Okay, so they're not exactly lacking. Anyone with Kilkenny, take your pick. David Blanchfield.
Yeah, I wouldn't have him down as a machine now.
Well, I'd probably
have Hugh Lawler down as more of a machine than him.
Would you? Yeah. Yeah, do you know what? But I still think they're both sort of sinewy. Just all muscle, all lean, all that kind of stuff.
Sinewy.
Yeah, you're not going for that, no? Okay.
Not really, no.
Yeah, we have a few there. Limerick, take your pick. We've already mentioned the whole heap of them. Wexford, we've mentioned the heap of them. Waterford, Conor Prunty.
Yeah, I wouldn't have him in that category now necessarily.
Okay.
I think when Ozzy is on his game, and in the peak of his powers, I think he's a bit of a machine, I have to say.
Did we mention Clare? because Brendan Rafferty is saying John Conlon, machine. I'd also throw in Aaron Shanahan.
Yeah, I'd also probably throw in Cottle Malone to a lesser extent into it as well.
David Fitzgerald?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, like he just kind of can glide away from lads, and he just seems to be able to stay going at the same pace from second one to the last second as well.
Conor Cleary wouldn't necessarily be covering the ground to the same pace as that, but physically imposing anyway.
But see, he's a machine that knows how to function properly. He knows exactly what he needs to do, so that's what he does. He doesn't go off and try and do these big marauding runs or anything like that.
Yeah. Back to the young guns then. Dublin.
Yeah, there's lots of them with Dublin. You've probably seen some of them maybe at closer quarters than me, like the likes of Donal Levy, who you're involved with Nave Olaf this year. Brian Hayes, like unbelievable pace around the middle of the field. I just watched back that Dublin Galway game from the World Cup from last weekend. I watched back over the weekend there. They just got a ball at one stage. And I forget who it was he burnt, but he just, he properly burnt him. A seasoned enough kind of Galway player. Dermot O'Dooling, very, very good player as well. You might know a bit more about Dara Power, Davy Keogh as well, but they've got lots of just the nature of the fact that so many experienced players left Micheál Donoghue's squad. He's kind of maybe had to throw a lot of new kind of faces in, so they're kind of like Quirke in a way without maybe the underage success. They've got a lot of names that are just kind of waiting to make their mark at senior level.
Yeah, actually, so there are plenty of players there for Dublin as well, and I expect Dara Purcell to have a big year this year. That this could be the year where he nails down that starting spot throughout the year. Galway then, Declan McLaughlin, we kind of mentioned him last week. I can see him being good. Do you think that when he's up against the Sean O'Donoghue type player, that it might be a different story and he might find, how he was very good against Dublin? That was Parnell Park, dirty day, and I saw that as an extra reason to praise him because he's a smaller profile type player and the ball stuck to him in those conditions. But maybe, again, it's levels and come up against Sean O'Donoghue, etc., and Sean Finn. It's not going to be as easy.
Yeah, you're going to get wrestled, even coming up against someone like Mikey Butler, who you're probably not going to burn for pace. That'd be a real interesting duel. That's probably going to happen in the Leinster Championship at some stage. Mightn't happen at the start of a game, but could happen in the last 20 minutes. I just think, I think a county level, you're generally, a lot of time, you're not going to be that much faster than anybody. Everybody's up to a fair level, particularly on that inside line. You're coming up against he's going to come up against the cream of defenders. Even like, I don't think he'd survive on Paddy Burke. Like, I think Paddy Burke at the minute, but it'll remain to be seen. But like Paddy Burke, who was able to keep Owen Cody very quiet when Antrim played Kilkenny last year. It's just there are levels to it now. But like if they're able to give him lovely ball in front of him and his touch is lightning, it's just going to be very, very difficult. It's very difficult. How do you get away? You don't really get away from Mikey Butler or Sean Finn or Paddy Burke and these lads. So I think there's still a fair bit to go for Declan McLaughlin now to get to that level, but there's definitely been glimpses and flashes that there's something there, all right.
I'm wondering, is Tiernan Killeen going to have his big year this year? Like, Gavin Lee isn't a new player per se, but he'd be another one. So Galway have, Sean O'Hanlon is another one that's impressed me at times. So they have players that can take that step up. By the way, Wicklow are without hurling manager. So we've seen that Casey O'Brien and his management group have stepped away, and it seems to be down to not enough players committing. Even though they won the Nicky record last year, they're now without a management team. Players weren't committing. Are you going to step up and take over the job, a former Wicklow player?
If someone rang me, I wouldn't leave them stuck. Put it that way. But they're under pressure at the minute. I think there was 21 players didn't commit, and I think in their Kyo Cup game they had 4 of the starting team that played in the Nicky Rackard Cup final last year. This is a problem at lower tiers as well.
Yeah.
So it's easier to commit when they were at Nicky Rackard level. Barring a disaster, they were going to be in a semi-final or more than likely a final at Rackard level. And the Croke Park carrot is there. Now, there's also an age profile thing where I think Christy Morehouse has stepped away. He's, mid-30s. Andy O'Brien is retired. John Henderson has gone travelling maybe. But when you go up to Christy Ring, realistically, the chances of playing in Croke Park are so slim. Like you're going up a level. So they're going up a level now, and they're basically without the vast majority of their best players. They're in a really bad spot at the minute. And it's not like lads are going to come out of retirement and say or like that. If you've made that decision, you've made that decision. And it's not like lads who are gone travelling are going to come back next week, really. You know what I mean? Like there's lads gone away for 6 months. There's lads gone away. I think Pádraig Doyle is living in London again, one of their best players. They're in a really, really bad spot at the minute. I think they'll field this weekend, but what they'll be able to field, I don't know. And if they were to get relegated from Division 2B to 3A, that would be another massive step back. Because if you're in 3A, realistically, you're teetering between Rackard and Laurie Marr level, and they're going playing Christy Ring, like. So yeah, they're under big pressure. And I know I've spoken to Casey before because he was St. Pat's football manager, like, and he came back to Wicklow and he did, by all accounts, he got everyone on board, and they were able to, you know, win the record or whatever. I'm sure he would have stepped away with a very, very heavy heart and wouldn't have wanted to, but he obviously felt that he was put in that position. And I think there was a few lads that were going to make a late call about coming back, and I think it was negative on those lads coming back, and he obviously felt like he was left to it with no other decision.
Yeah, okay. Well, then we'll move on to Kilkenny's young guns. Our players that are going to emerge this year. Conor Heary is one that you've kind of plumbed for a lot when we've been talking about the 2024 year. And Owen Guilfoyle has been getting lots of game time lately and doing quite well. Kevin Blanchfield seems to have been laying down a bit of a marker also. And Derek Ling has been trying players far and wide. He is looking for hurlers. So there's definitely an opening. He's looking for lads to step up.
Oh, big time. I think Conor Heary is obviously, he's not like 20 or anything like that, but he definitely comes into this category. You have a lad that started cornerback against Tipperary last year in the league. He's probably going to start wing forward, you know, in league games over the coming weeks and months, and potentially could be a championship starter. So I think it's okay to put him into that bracket as a young kind of player to watch. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't start for Kilkenny, just given he has a lot of assets that maybe that they don't have. And if you're looking at what do you need in a modern inter-county player, just take skill out of it for a second. What do you need in a modern inter-county player? Physically imposing, fast, strong, robust. And that's without taking his hurling ability into it. So I'd be very surprised if he doesn't make a mark. And anything I've seen of Kevin Blanchfield has been good. And he was Kilkenny's best player in the second half against Wexford in the Walsh Cup the week before last as well. So yeah, he's a good chance of making a mark too, as do a couple of the Thomastown boys. I don't know if the two Donnellys are in, Robbie and Stephen, but they were John's younger brothers, but they were both very good in Thomastown's run to the All-Ireland Intermediate as well. So, and Zach Bay Hammond is in there as well, who played with Thomastown too. So Derek Ling has shown an appetite to give as many chances as people want, and it's just some certain lads are going to put their hands up. Definitely think if Conor Heary gets a chance, he'd take it.
And Limerick then, take your pick. Adam English, Colin Coughlin, Shane O'Brien, Aidan O'Connor, Fergal O'Connor, they would probably be the ones that, you know, would be talked about most. Tipperary, from what I've seen, the ones that, you know, seem to be getting a nice bit of game time. Sean Kennelly, he was playing a lot in the Munster Hurling League. Andrew Ormond, as I mentioned in the Dylan Quirke game, he showed well, and he's not all that long back from a cruciate injury. So, you know, it's probably a belated chance for him to nail down some sort of a starting spot. Danny Slattery is a guy who was on the under-20s last year at cornerback. He's now playing cornerback this year as well, has a lot of speed. And if there was one place where I'd be saying I'd be a little bit concerned about Tipperary, it's getting extra lads to sort of, like, there's a huge amount of options from probably 5 forwards, but it's 2, 3, 4. You may have to convert lads from other areas to play there, or there aren't that many obvious ones. There's a couple of good ones, but there's not massive depth.
It's gas how hurling has changed, but that they're still such specialist positions, aren't they? No, Barry Nash is trying to change the role or whatever, but like you need 3 to 4 really fit, fast, tight marking kind of defenders who are also good on the ball. And it's very, very difficult. I don't know about you, but I've seen lads converted from wing back to cornerback down through the years, and it just doesn't work because it's a complete shift of mind. Like you go from wing back, what's one of your primary roles as a wing back? Say 2. You need to be good under the puck out, and you need to be a good striker, generally. A cornerback, you might be striking the ball 30 yards. That might be the most you strike it in a given day. And it's basically your primary function is to stop. So, and be a stopper. So that's why it's still so specialist. And that's why I would say, even when you were mentioning the Limerick names there, with Sean Finn only coming back from the Cruciate, I'd say Fergal O'Connor is someone that will get a good run, and Richie English only coming back from a Cruciate as well. They're fairly short of those options. What have we got? Aaron Costello, Dan Morrissey, Mike Casey, Fergal O'Connor, Barry Nash. Do you know what I mean? So there's probably, it's easy probably look at the attackers and say, oh, Shane O'Brien will make an impact, but will he get that many chances to make an impact? Do you know what I mean? Whereas there might be something there for Fergal O'Connor, particularly even coming on in the last 10, 15 minutes of games when lads pick up knocks or there's someone on a yellow or something like that. So he's someone now that I think could see a good bit of game time and could come on in championship games this year.
Yeah, we've already kind of mentioned some of the Wexford players that could make an impact this year.
Just one Shane that we didn't, and it's really interesting. He's not actually young, but it's his first year of inter-county. Aaron Duggan, the Wexford keeper yesterday, Kilkenny man, playing with Wexford. Yes, he played with Dixborough in the 2012 county final, and played with Dixborough the whole way up. I think maybe when Dara Houlihan broke through on the scene, he kind of maybe usurped him as number one for Dixborough. But he's marrying in, I think, to Wexford family. He played the county final for Aldgate Glenbrine last year, was very, very good, and was very good yesterday. So you have a scenario next weekend where you could have Kilkenny man who played minor and captain Kilkenny at under 21 and played for Kilkenny footballers togging out against his native county. So that doesn't happen. Like, that definitely doesn't happen every day of the week. It's like Wexford transferring to Kilkenny or vice versa. It's like Tip transferring to Kilkenny or vice versa. Like Dennis Byrne is the only one that we're really aware of. So that's a little kind of an interesting side note going into the weekend. I think he's probably about 30, but it's his first year playing inter-county senior.
Well, in the goals.
Yeah.
But sure, I suppose he could do it for another 10 years if he turns out to be particularly good at it.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you obviously had Mark Fanning back on the Wexford panel, and James Lawler, who played all the championship games last year. But in fairness, Duggan was very, very good yesterday. So he got his chance, probably took it. Interesting to see whether he starts now next weekend. Be a good crack for him now, going playing in Nolan Park of all places against Kilkenny.
Yeah, well, at least he'll know the environment well. There'll be nothing surprising him there. And Waterford then, some of the players that have stood out to me, Shamie Fitzgerald, who's brother of Pádraig Fitzgerald, the Kilrossenty version now, not the Ballygunner one. Sean Walsh, who's kind of, in the games I've seen, wearing number 14, coming out the field foraging, looking for ball. Ruben O'Halloran, a player that we've kind of seen a nice bit for Delassalle in the last couple of years, and, you know, looks a fair old unit. He'd be another one. So I think we've touched on every county at Liam McCarthy at this level, at this stage. So get your comments in if there's anyone we've missed. And Nancy, you want to talk about in terms of hurling, or we move on to some of the big ball?
No, because in fairness, the big ball was good at the weekend. It was the best weekend of football in a while. I wouldn't have seen as much now yesterday, obviously, because I was down in Carlow. But Saturday evening was thoroughly enjoyable entertainment now, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, Kerry, like, I don't know. I mean, with Kerry, without the Cliffords, you just wonder, are they a bit of a bang average team in a way? Conditions weren't perfect. Derry are obviously a very good team. They're a common team. They want to lay down a marker and all that kind of stuff. But I just wasn't blown away by Kerry. Now, on the flip side, fair enough, they lost a tight game. But the flip side is they did have a run of 5 goal chances in the space of something like 15 minutes. They got 2 goals out of it in the second half. So they could have quite easily won the game at the same time. Now, maybe it's when you don't have the Cliffords at the end of these chances, you end up with a run of 2 out of 5 rather than, let's say, 4 out of 5, for example. But I don't know, it's just hard to be all that enthusiastic about watching this Kerry team when you don't have those 2 boys in there.
I suppose when you have like one of the greatest players of all time and you're without him, it does leave a massive hole. Just one thing I want to put to you, like, what did you make of the Stephen O'Brien goal chance? I couldn't believe what I was watching. I just, like, Stephen O'Brien's a lovely footballer. He's well able to slot that way himself. Like, that's a either take the shot or it's take a sidestep and try and send the keeper the wrong way. And I have to say now, I thought Chrissy McCaig was brilliant as a defender because he half went, and if you see before O'Brien gave the hand pass, he had to think about it. And once you have to think about it, you're under pressure. Once you're not doing it on instinct. But like, I don't know how you're not kind of burying that yourself. You're one on one with the keeper, like.
Yeah, I thought Derry did a brilliant job of pressing up on Kerry's kickouts in the first half and matching the runs and forcing them to go along. They conceded so many scores over turning around the kickout. And I suppose it was the same to some degree in the second half, which brings us to the goal that Kerry scored through Conor Ganey. Nice finish and all that. But Oren Lynch coming on the burst looking for the overlap, and he ends up, the ball doesn't go to him, ends up spilled in the net. Now, some people are delighted to see a goalie getting caught out. It's obviously not just down to him alone. But are you happy with that? Do you want to see goalies stuck in the goals? Or are you happy to see them out, a bit more expansive?
I don't know. I think it adds a little bit something to the game. Does it? Does it not? I think it adds a bit more intrigue to the game. They obviously think the juice is worth the squeeze, like of him going forward and being able to create an extra man, or offer more of an offensive threat or whatever. Like up until Mickey Harte went to Loud, I probably wouldn't have thought that he'd be for this type of thing. But James Califf was out quite a bit, I think, when he was with Loud. He has a keeper. He has a keeper that can kind of play like that. It's going to happen. I'd say it's far more likely to happen on that type of an evening where the ball can kind of spill, maybe than in a big championship game. Although it did happen against Galway in the All Ireland semi-final a couple of years ago as well. But I suppose you have to take, what's it worth to them going forward, and is it worth more than potentially conceding a goal at a big time? And that's a decision that they make, and if they're happy that it is, they'll stay plowing forward with it.
Yeah, so Shane McGuigan scored 7 points there. 6 were frees. Did you notice there was I think both incidents were in the first half where he had the ball and he was being chased by Jason Foley, and he stepped across him the first time. So he basically tripped Jason Foley and he went tumbling over himself, but he created the contact. He manufactured the contact. The referee gave him the free, which he slotted over, and actually it hurt Jason Foley. He needed treatment. Yeah. And then a few minutes later, the referee gave it the other direction. Like, we see that a lot in Gaelic football, where a player just puts their foot out and throws the would-be tackler over that foot. I think that should always be a free against it's generally a forward. It should always be a free against the ball carrier.
You're saying when the ball carrier manufactures that type of free, it should be a free against them.
Yeah, so in that situation, Foley should have been given a free both times.
Very difficult one for a referee to call. Like, did you see it in normal time?
Yeah, and I thought straight away that should be a free out, because he's intentionally stepped across him to manufacture the contact.
Your sight's better than mine. It's said that, because I didn't see it. Saw it the second time, all right. Is the onus not on the man without the ball to, I don't know, not to overcommit himself and not to allow that type of thing to happen?
But sure, then you won't have any tight tackling at all. Like, he intentionally was running one way, and like, you can jink left, right, and centre. But if you just stick your leg out to create a contact with the opponent, it's so obvious.
Did he stick his leg out, or did he plant his leg on the ground? He stuck his leg out.
He planted his leg to the right to generate contact with the person who was chasing. So it was just a total intentional trip, which was sold as a foul by Foley. And the referee bought it the first time and not the second time.
I wouldn't. I don't. I'd have to look back at it again. I didn't actually see the second one. I don't know. I'm probably on the fence on it. It's a difficult one to call in normal time for referees. It's yet another thing that referees have to look out for.
Yeah. Do you know what, the composure towards the end of the game, like in their last 5 efforts, Derry scored each of their last 5 efforts. And this was during a run where Kerry were getting goal chance, and they scored their 2 goal chances. Kerry only scored 1 of their last 6 chances. So that was, and in front of your home crowd and all, I don't think that there's a great look to that.
No, probably not. I don't know about you, but it looked to me coming down the stretch that Kerry were the team with all the momentum, and I thought Derry did remarkably well to win the game. And a lot of it, as you said there, is just down to kind of shooting efficiency, really. It's also like there's a fairly storied rivalry between Mickey Harte teams and Kerry, and how Mickey Harte is kind of viewed down in Kerry almost. I think this sets up beautifully for a potential meeting down the road as well. And even I think one of the Radio Kerry commentators put it to him in an interview after that the keeper took a hell of a long time kind of kicking out the ball. It just I was actually just thinking after, like, a national journalist wouldn't say that to him. So I love that local element, because they're so, like, we're on the fence, bar Tipper playing an Ireland final and you're covering it. You try to be unbiased in what you're writing or whatever, but with the local lads, like they're totally biased and unashamedly, like, so that they end up putting stuff to the managers, particularly the opposition manager. I remember one of the Clare lads putting something to Derry Egan after Clare beat Wexford in the All-Ireland quarter final, and it's just like, it was such a local question, and it, like, you could tell it really irked kind of Derry Egan, because it was something about Clare, or will Clare go on and win the All-Ireland semi-final now? And like, you know, as a Wexford manager, like, you don't care. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? So I just love that kind of local element to it still.
Yeah, do you know, Sean Kavanagh said at half-time in RT, Kerry are totally clueless with the ball. Now, and their score in return ended up with, it was 10 out of 26 efforts that they scored. But, you know, he probably doesn't love Kerry, and maybe some of it comes from that as well, but he obviously wouldn't love Derry either. And you see Peter Canavan talking about looking at Mickey Harte on the Derry sideline and all that, you know, rivals and everything. But, and I'm not specifically talking about Sean or Peter here, but a lot of Tyrone former players and people in the media around Tyrone basically canvassed for a long time and tried to do it in as nice a way as possible that Mickey Harte had to go from Tyrone. So they can't have their cake and eat it now and be like, oh, I don't like seeing him on the sideline for Derry after pushing for him to be gone for Tyrone, can they?
Yeah, I was watching the live coverage the other night. Now, I wasn't mad about the kind of language even being used about kind of Hart. He's gone there, and it's just like, I just wouldn't have been mad about the language that was used around him or whatever. He's gone there. It happens regularly throughout the country now. Lads going to different counties or whatever, even rival counties, and as you say there, you kind of can't really talk out both sides of your mouth, really, can you? Do you know what I mean? If he's not really wanted in your own county, and you know his style has been viewed as one of the biggest problems to your county not progressing, you can't really have any qualms with him going to another county, can you? Really, even if it is one of your rivals.
Like, he was run out the gate, and now he wants to prove people wrong. He wants to ram it down people's throats. He may never say that, but
he definitely won't say that. I can guarantee you that.
No, but. You know, and Brendan Rafferty says here, Sean and Peter wrote a line on Mickey, thought I was being sensitive, but glad you picked up on it. But, like, it's not that I think that they're being massively, you know, sensitive or prickly on it or whatever. It's just, you can't have your cake and eat it. You know, you can't say, you know, and I'm obviously just kind of paraphrasing a little bit, but, like, the general consensus was that a lot of the former Tyrone players wanted him out. Well, okay, you got him out. So now if you have to eat a bit of humble pie, or if it's going to blow up in your face, well, you know, you kind of helped that happen.
Now, I have to say, I thought Peter Canavan was far more neutral on it than Sean Kavanagh was, been honest with you now. And Canavan kind of would smile and make a bit of a laugh about it. And to be fair, I think he was one of the few that, definitely publicly anyway, would have stood by Hart till the end, whereas others would have maybe jumped off the wagon a couple of years before his time finished.
And actually, goalkeeper being out of their area, I'm trying to remember what was the name of the forward for Quirke that scored the goal against Donegal yesterday. I was flicking around the channels at the time. I'm sure I'll find it quite quickly if I look it up. But Cork won a ball. They were playing with the wind. I think it was Rory Dean who hit a long kick, and it was buried into the back of the net by one of their young corner forwards. Who was it? Just give me a second and I'll find the name. Yeah, it was Chris Oak-Jones. He finished it nicely. He had another opportunity a little while later when the goalie was off the line, but it was probably a difficult one of those ones where, you know yourself, the keeper is out of the goals and you try from long range to knock it in. It could be a little bit embarrassing if you miss the target.
But it's funny, like, because it's something that I wonder, is it practice much? Like, you know, in modern football, with like lads slipping a ball to someone off the shoulder, there's very few lads within a team that would be able to execute. And maybe I'm wrong. There's very few lads that would execute that kick regularly now, or try to execute it. The only time I'd say to be trying it is before training starts, when they're trying all these kind of loopy points and you're standing out in the corner flag trying to swing one over, or you're out the 45 trying to put one over, Dermot Conley style on the outside of the right, or Paul Flynn style. I wonder how many lads actually practice that type of thing now. Probably a hell of a lot less than they would have before. But just on Cork as well, and Cork and Donegal, and we'll probably just maybe cover that now quickly. Like, Cork were absolutely shocking by all accounts, but Donegal seem to have is everybody back on board now? Is there anybody that's not involved, bar Michael Murphy, who's retired, and very difficult to pull someone out of retirement? So I know you were talking the last day about, tactically, how will Jim McGuinness set up, or what advances will he bring to the game? Tactics is one thing. Changing a mood within a county is a hell of a different thing. And he has lifted the gloom in Donegal. Him being named, I think, lifted the gloom. And even I think they brought 5,000 to one of the McKenna Cup games. And they have everyone involved now. Ryan McHugh is back mad for road. It just seems like everyone is back involved. And will they be perfect this year? They probably won't be. But you'd expect them to be very, very competitive. And you'd expect them to eke every bit out of themselves. Whether that's getting to a quarter final, if that's the seeding, then that's the seeding. Or if it's getting to a semi-final next year, then that's the seeding. But I do think it could be a dangerous animal over the next couple of years. If the mood is right in a place, that's half the battle. And Shano, you know that in Tip as well as anywhere else, where there's certain years where you just know the mood is not right. And Tip is a great example, because if the mood is wrong in Tip and there's not a buy-in, it can be very bad.
Yeah,
well, as it was in 22, as it was probably in 12. And a couple of other years there. Whereas when the mood is good, 9, 10, 14,
24
remains 24. To be seen.
Johnny Appleseed's after throwing in a few comments. And
look, it's Johnny Appleseed.
Well, Westmeath beat Offaly yesterday, and he says, lads, don't be afraid to say it. Westmeath are favourites for Sam.
Westmeath have beaten Offaly in 10 of their last 11 meetings, I think, between league and championship. And the Offaly win.
Not many can say that.
No, no. Well, not many have met them that many times, I'd say. And I think the one Offaly victory was in a 2018 league dead rubber game. So they've gone a bit ahead of us at the minute. And I think John Heston was missing for them as well. So that's a good sign from a Westmeath point of view, and probably a worrying thing from an Offaly point of view.
Yeah. Just before we talk about Monaghan's 1-point victory over Dublin and the game itself, we might as well mention Monaghan manager Vinnie Corey talking about Rory Beggan pursuing an NFL career. And it certainly did catch our eye, the terminology used. It's not a foregone conclusion. He's going to explore it, but hopefully he'll come to his senses in the end. And I saw that turn of phrase used in a few other interviews as well.
He wishes him well, Shane. He wishes him well.
Like, okay, look, Vinnie Corey is probably of a mindset of like, sure, all you ever want to do, like, all you want to do is represent Monaghan. Why would you want to do anything else? And I totally get that, if that's how he feels about it. But is that not sort of prickly language to use and the sort of thing that would get a player's back up?
Yeah, probably.
I'll prove you wrong, Vinny, and I'm going to go all the way with this NFL.
Maybe. But Rory Beggan is like the ultra committed type, and even the fact that I think am I right in saying a black card or something was like the only 10 minutes he's been off the pitch nearly in the last decade, or something ridiculous like that, or whatever. So he's obviously ultra committed to the cause. I'd say it's, he's maybe pulling at his heartstrings a small bit. It is an unbelievable opportunity, though. Like, if he was able to pull it off, he could be known worldwide for his kicking ability. Like, that would be, and obviously there's the financial implications and all that involved in it as well. Like, you literally, I presume he's an NFL fan. You're literally going living a completely different type of dream. And it's not as if he hasn't given over a decade to Monaghan already. I said it to you on a previous show. Vinny used similar enough language around how he talked about Carol Gallagher going to the AFL as well. And I don't think there's no badness in it, but I don't think it was like, I hope he does unbelievably well over there. It was kind of more like, we'd love to have him here and we want him here. But just on the Monaghan thing as well, like, it doesn't seem to matter who wears the jersey, really. It's just like the whole thing just continues on. The other night, no Rory Beggan, Carol O'Connell only came on, no Darren Hughes, no Conor McManus, Kieran Hughes retired, and it's just like the same old Monaghan. It was actually unbelievable to watch. It was brilliant, exhilarating stuff.
Oh, it was just excellent football. The way you want the game to be played, really. Just the scorers, for people who might have missed it. Jack McCarron scored 1-2, including a nicely finished penalty. Kieran McNulty came on and scored 1-1. He was really, really good. And so was Stephen Mooney, who set him up for both scores, actually, I think. So these are two young lads that are coming through now for Monaghan. And you could see that Vinnie Corey was very excited about them afterwards. Stephen O'Hanlon scored 1-1, including a bullet with his left foot from the edge of the area. He was ridiculous. Like, he was just so good. It was sort of beyond belief at times. His pace, his ability to drive through traffic, slalom left and right. He was the highlight of the game.
He was beautiful to watch. It was like watching Jack McCaffrey in full flow, like peak Jack McCaffrey, breaking tackles, flying through lads, and then they've been able to come up with the end product generally as well. Like, it looked like at different stages that this game was definitely going Dublin's way, and you'd see James McCarthy coming in, and you're thinking, like, Dublin and even Collie Pascal as well, that Dublin are making sure that they're going to, eat this one out or whatever. But Monaghan found a way, and I just thought it was brilliant to see. They haven't been beaten. Dublin haven't beaten them since like 2017 or something in the league. I think I might be right in saying they obviously relegated them to Division 2 at the end of the 2022 season as well. But just O'Hanlon, yeah, it was absolute joy to watch. It was beautiful to watch, especially in Croke Park as well. Whatever about doing it maybe up in Clonus or among the provincial venues, to do it up there, there'll be lads absolutely sky high in Monaghan, and that will, you'd imagine they'd grow a foot with a win like that. Just the experience of playing against a fair whack of experienced Dubs, they're in All-Ireland champions in their backyard.
And I'd have to say, some of the experienced players from Dublin, we probably didn't see their A side in this game. Like, Brian Fenton's 2-time Footballer of the Year, and no doubt he'll grow into the season and probably have a brilliant year. But he was pretty quiet throughout. And then at the end of the game, when he got the ball, probably just outside the 45, he looked like he was getting a head up of steam to do the usual thing of pop one over into the hill from around the edge of the D. But instead, he probably showed less composure than we're used to, gifted the ball away. Was it Michael Bannigan who had the turnover? By the way, I thought he was excellent as well. But it ended up with the winning score down at the other end. I don't think Jack McCaffrey made a very good sort of hand pass while he was falling over at one stage. But to me, he doesn't fully look like himself just yet. Now, maybe he'll come back to that. And like, he's one of the best players we've seen probably ever. But physically, he doesn't look quite right at the moment.
No, good to see him playing at this time of the year, though, and fit. Because by all accounts, I think he said in an interview, I think he pulled his hamstring 7 or 8 different times last year, or had little knocks at different times. So he was kind of always chasing his tail. So I'd say it looks like if he started the first league game, I'd say he has a decent preseason put in. And it's just a matter of kind of managing his minutes and keeping him fit, basically, between now and the end of the league, and even further into that, because I think then he'd do a hamstring during the championship at one stage as well, and was off for some of the kind of round robin games as well. But it's a good sign kind of to see him back, even playing games at this stage.
How many games in a row had Rory Beggan played competitively for Monaghan before Darren MacDonald played at the weekend?
League and championship?
Yeah.
85.
I'll give the viewers until the end of this segment about Monaghan Dublin to guess, and then I'll tell you. Some of the other players then, I thought Andrew Woods came on, scored a nice point. Michael Hamill, I thought he was quite good in the half-forward line as well. Like, they have a pretty dynamic, fast team. Aggressive as well. Killian Lavelle left it in a few times.
Did you see the moment where like he peeled Con like across the face, and then he goes like this, as if he was diving. He hit my right clout, and then tried to get then tried to make sure he didn't get yellow, and tried to make out the Con was diving. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, and then on the Dublin side of things, yeah, it's like hard to know who really they were only a point off, and I thought there was good kind of snippets from Lorcan O'Dell at times, Ross McGarry, Luke Brannock. There was some good little snippets here and there, but again, they are missing some of their frontline players. It wasn't quite the Dublin we're used to, but I suppose it's so early in the year, you're hard to read too far into it. And just in terms of how many games that Beggan had played unbroken before this, Traumspeter says 145, 123. They said that on the commentary as well. Yeah,
it's outrageous. Just on Lorcan O'Dell, that was a lovely ball he put across for the goal, for the first goal. Lovely little dink ball, kind of like a true ball almost. But yeah, you wouldn't have been coming away from Croke Park the other night thinking, oh, Dublin have unearthed another fella, or here's a guy that we're going to see, a new face that we're going to see a lot of. And I think that's probably what they need to get out of the league. They know exactly what they're going to get out of all their big hitters. Also, I was going to say that they're without Dean Rock this year, so they're without that free taking option. But in fairness, Cormac Costa had the season 2023 basically on the freeze, so that shouldn't be as much of an issue, even though Rock probably had more of a range from different areas. That's probably why you saw Cluxton coming up taking, I think, his first free in the All Ireland final. He took, I think it was a free and a 45, and there were his first frees to hit for Dublin in something like 6 or 7 years, and they were ultimately the difference at the end too.
Mayo beat Galway 2-12 to 10 points at Pearse Stadium, and it's 4 wins out of 5 meetings for Kevin McStay against the old neighbours, which no doubt I'm sure he's quite happy about. The scorers: Owen McLaughlin scored a goal from play, Cillian O'Connor got a penalty, Fergal Boland very good with 3 points, Jordan Flynn and Ryan O'Donoghue and Paul Towie with 2 each, and 1 each for Jack Carney, Paddy Durkin, Bob Toohey. On the other side, Shane Walsh scored 1 from plays, 3 frees and a 45. Liam O'Conneilla scored 2 points. Dylan McHugh, Killian O'Creen and Cathal Sweeney scored a point each. Are we going to read that much into it? If we're reading into it for some teams, can we read it in for others?
No, I wouldn't be reading too much. And sure, like Mayo, it's kind of deja vu all over again, really. Like, just when you think they're kind of, expectations are dampened at all, they kind of raise them straight away. But I wouldn't be running away with this. Fergal Boland's an interesting one, Shane. I think I said it to you before about how he got called into the Mayo under-21 panel. They basically had picked their panel and they did like a little questionnaire of lads in the squad. And one of the questions on the questionnaire was, is there anybody that you think should be in here that's not here? And Fergie B was put down on like 20 sheets, and eventually he was called in and ended up in the starter for the Mayo under-21s. I think they won an All-Ireland that year. But by all accounts, he wasn't on the panel last year and had planned to go to Australia and was as good as in Australia when he got the call, and things were put on hold, and he's obviously gone in playing for Mayo now. And I know Paddy Durkin was given man the match on the telly, but by all accounts, Fergal Boland was man the match from most people I was talking to anyway.
And of course, Tyrone, they're down Ronan McNamee, Niall Sludden this year. And even, you look before that as well, and they lost their AFL man as well, who's obviously a huge player. And they went down to 14 men at home to Roscommon, and they still ended up winning the game 17 points to 111, and always looked in control of it late on as well. That's a very encouraging win for Brian Dooher and Fergal Logan.
Definitely is, yeah, because I don't know, the mood music is not great in Tyrone, is it? From everything kind of I'm hearing anyway. And just a quick one, what did you make of the Con Kilpatrick red card?
I'm assuming something happened other than the actual tackle itself. So, he bodied up one of the Roscommon players. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head. He's much bigger than the Roscommon player. He buried him nicely, but it was a yellow card. So there must have been something said or an extra altercation there afterwards.
Yeah, I wonder. I'm actually not sure in the rules. Actually, like, just say he commits a foul that's a yellow card, and then immediately commits, pushes a fella or something like that. Can you just give them a red? And I presume you can just combine the two and give them a red or whatever. That's more than likely what happened, I'd say. But he showed him a straight red, didn't he?
That's what I'm saying. But you would think that they'd just very quickly show 2 yellow cards then if it was going to be a red for 2 things. So that's why I think the referee has deemed that something was said or done afterwards, or else he felt it was a straight red. Because I don't think you can just upgrade a yellow to a red.
No.
I'm going to roll 2 into 1.
They've already said they're going to appeal it now as well. So the great GA disciplinary process will come into play once again.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything else we wanted to talk about on that particular game? I mean, very good from Tyrone. Like, as I said, like Derek Henderson, he just looks like a touch of class, as he always does. His brother came in also. Like, Dara scored 8 points, 5 of those from play. Daly in the corner, I can't remember his first name. He was quite good. They are Tyrone in the mix again this year. I mean, there's no absolutely outstanding superstar team that's a mile ahead like Dublin used to be. Dublin and Kerry will be there. Galway should be there. A few other teams should be there. Tyrone, they shouldn't be too far away.
No, they shouldn't, but they're after dropping down a fair few levels in the last couple of years. Like last year, they were obliterated by Kerry. Let's call a spade a spade. Like, do you know what I mean? And the year before wasn't much better. Everyone's kind of branding that 2021 win as not a fluke, but that they took advantage of maybe opportunities that arose and things just clicked.
They slipped in and got a handy one. Isn't that what's often said?
Well, that's what most people are saying. That's what people say Tip did in 19 as well. To be honest with you, when they beat Kilkenny by whatever they did, I'm sure you're going to say. But just on the two Canavans,
Actually,
Darren,
sorry, I'm
go
going to
on.
have to stop you there because you've brought up 2019 and you've brought up Tyrone yesterday, and even Thomas's last week against O'Loughlin Gaels. Once again, showing you don't have to collapse if you lose a man, unlike 2019 final.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, you definitely don't. Just on the two Canavans, they're playing with Ulster University at the minute, and it's kind of a funny one. They're not really both starting any of the games. One is coming on and one is coming off, and they're both having a big impact. And Conor Glass, would you believe, is actually eligible to play with Ulster University in the Sigerson. So whether he, and I think Ethan Doherty might be as well, but whether they're named on the greater squad, I think. Whether they actually play now would be interesting. Would that be some crack if you threw? I think they might be playing Wednesday in a quarter final. It wouldn't be too bad, lads, to throw in. But the Canavans have obviously had their minutes kind of managed at the minute. And that means that they're kind of able to make a kind of an impact with both teams, but two seriously class players.
Yeah, you might go through the Division 2 results there.
Yeah, by all accounts, this was far from vintage down in Ennis, but it finished Clare at 9 points, Sligo 1-5, and you're just kind of thinking that's a big 2 points to put on the board for a Clare team that no longer managed by Colin Collins, with Cotton O'Connor retired. Owen Cleary's not involved this year. There's a lot of big names with a lot of experience that are no longer around there. So that's a big win for Clare. We mentioned Westmeath defeating Offaly, obviously, in Tullamore. Down had a 5-point win over Wicklow. Down in Ockram, as there would have been expected to be honest with you, 18 points to 13. And Antrim had a big win away as well against Limerick, 2-14 to 2-7. Just going through them there, and there's 3 out of 4 were away wins. I think there were only 5 home wins across the 16 games in the four divisions. And some of those results are pretty overwhelming wins for the away team. So bar Donegal playing in Ballybuffet, which they just seem to win in Ballybuffet regardless of what the year is or how they're going. Home advantage doesn't seem to mean a hill of beans at the minute anyway. And across the league, if you go for the last couple of years, and even in the Munster round robin, home means very, very little as well in recent years. Less than 50% of the home teams winning, and I think it's only slightly higher in Leinster.
Okay, I was updating something there. Did you just read out Division 2 or also Division 3?
No, just all 2, yeah.
Okay, then Division 3, Clare 9 points, Sligo 1-5. That sounds like a classic.
Sorry. I read out all of Division 3 and none of Division 2. So I'll fly through Division 2 really quickly. I saw Clare and I immediately thought they were in Division 2 because they've been there for the guts of a decade.
Okay.
So Armagh had a 1-point win over Louth, 12 points to 11. The bits I saw this were far from vintage again, and a lot of Armagh people and even neutral people bemoaning the style of play that Armagh were playing and not playing front football enough. Sam Mulroy even had a 45, I think, to level it at the very end. That would have been a great point earned for Louth, but they're going to find Ger Brennan's going to find it harder to get points now in Division 2 after that. Kildare went down by 4 against Cavan. Again, Kildare had a pretty abysmal league last year that they just saved at the very, very end. So this is a great win for Raymond Gall against Cavan, 16 points to 12. Meath and Fermanagh that we talked about earlier in the show ended in a draw, 10 minutes of stalemate at the end, and Donegal hit 120. Like 120 is a fair score against Cork are no mugs either. So 120 to 2-6.
In those conditions.
Yeah, 21 scores to 8. Fairly damning defeat from Cork, you'd have to say. And I'd say that was a fairly lonely journey all down the west coast yesterday for Cork. Hart, leaving, I'm sure they weren't back till probably the guts of midnight, and there was plenty to stew on the way home.
In terms of other teams that would have put anything like 21 scores on the board, Leitrim with 19 scores, 217 would be the next. Cavan got 16 scores. Yeah, not too many other teams. Dublin with 15. Nobody really putting up massive scores with the weather and, the time of the year and I suppose freshness and all that kind of stuff. And then Division 4, Waterford 1-5, Leitrim 217, I just mentioned. London 1-9, Wexford 1-13, Laois 1-12, Longford 2-7, and Tipperary 1-14, 3-10 for Carlow. So 3 out of 4 away victories there also.
Tip footballers not starting off on a great note. In fairness, Carlow have been coming under Niall Crew for the last while, and they've kind of stuck with him on the project that he's kind of building there. But that's a good result for Carlow on the West soil, and not a good result for Paul Kelly starting out.
Yeah, but I suppose such huge turnover in the Tipperary panel that there will be a couple of results that, won't be overly pretty. Go to the week.
Oh, talk about springing it on me. Listen, Stephen O'Hanlon has to be him. He was that was probably like a 10 out of 10 performance nearly, wasn't it? It was as close as you get to it, I'd say. Yeah, Stephen O'Hanlon from a football point of view, from a hurling point of view. Yeah, probably Lee Chin or Jack O'Connor. Probably give it to Lee Chin.
Yeah, I'd be happy enough to go with both, being honest. It's rare that we go with the same ones, but I'm happy enough to on this occasion. Right, just a reminder, we're brought to you by orgaretro.com. Use the promo code OurGame and you'll get 15% off. That's it for the show this Monday. We'll be back again. Sorry, you want to say something?
Yeah, no, just great old interest in our club fundraisers. Just feel free to get in touch. Email events@ourgame.ie. We've lots of ones going to be organised over the next couple of weeks. So, great way to make a handy few quid for your club for the year ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So, email events@ourgame.ie. Michael, we'll see you later in the week. Take it handy.
See you, Shane.